Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It gives me great pleasure to announce, live from the Outta Space, it's Chicago Vintage with Ken Monty.
My place, and these are my people. Hello again, and welcome to another installment of the Chicago Vintage Show. I'm your host, Ken Monty. Some folks like to jokingly refer to me as the mayor of rockabilly. It's a position that I take with great pride and great sincerity. Now, if you happen to be sitting in your living room right now, and you're sitting on a pink tufted boomerang-shaped sofa, and you've got a blonde wood boomerang-shaped coffee table in front of you, and hanging on the wall behind your head is an 8x10 photograph of Ursula Hickey from 1958, I'm thinking the Chicago Vintage Show is the program for you. During the course of this episode, boy, we are just packed to the rafters. We are jugged this time around. We've got, of course, the ever-fabulous Beth Wagner from Scales and Tails. She's got some more little critters for us. We have guitar wizard extraordinaire. He can take 6 strings and just make magic. Mr. Chris Costello is with us this time around. Our musical guests live on stage, live as they happen, are Chicago's very own BamaLamas. And a young man is coming to be here on the program, and I'll be honest with you, I am so jealous of this man's television career. I wish it were my own. You know him as Svengoolie. He's here with us, Mr. Rich Koz. I know. Since this is the Chicago Vintage Show, it's time for a little vintage news. In 1951, President Harry S. Truman's speech addressing the state's Treaty of Peace with Japan is the first live transcontinental television broadcast. A national poll showed that audiences were much more excited about the series finale of The Bachelor. Hey, wait, what? Now this can't be right. The Bachelor wasn't even, you know what, I'm just gonna keep going. In 1953, the first color televisions go on sale. The number of viewing parties of The Bachelor increases dramatically. Guys, now how is it possible that the country was distracted by The Bachelor, which wasn't even, this is obviously some kind of prank, so I'm just moving on. Anyway, 1957, American physicist Gordon Gould invents the laser. Cats everywhere panic. In 1959, Alaska and Hawaii are admitted as the 49th and 50th states, which brings me to a new segment here on the program, which I think we'll call, We Did It Because We're America and for literally no other good reason. Here are some other dramatic and unnecessary things we did for no good reason other than we wanted to because we're America. Sending Robert Peary to the North Pole. Just out of curiosity, what's up there? We don't know, but Robert Peary will tell us. America. Electric blankets. Because why have 2 blankets on your bed when you can have 1 fire hazard instead? America. And finally, Wheel of Fortune. Okay, just about everything about Wheel of Fortune is awesome, from Pat Sajak's suits to Vanna White in the tight suit and the thing and the walking back and forth, and what the hell, it's America, right? All right. And finally, in 1956, the first transatlantic telephone cable began its operation. People everywhere immediately called up their friends to talk about The Bachelor. Oh, come on! I see a theme developing here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ken Monty, and that's news to me. Oh, Ed. Wow. This is so cool. I'm so excited to have this band with us. The best dressed band in Chicago by far. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the BamaLamas. about that? That was our very special guest DJ, Petey from Paisan's Pizza. Let's say, here's for Petey. And all the dancing that you've seen on the show, if you'd like to be able to do that kind of dancing and you don't know how, there's a very simple place you can go. You can talk to Sophia Wolf at jiving.com, www.jiving.com. She will get rid of all your left feet. Well, she'll save you one. And also, as you may or may not know, we do tape the program live at the Outta Space in beautiful Berwyn, Illinois. Thanks to Aaron for being our host here. A round of applause. Wow. I'm so geared up right now, I can't even see straight because of the guests that we have next on the program. This, as they say in show business, is a big get. You've been seeing this man on your television set since the late 1970s. He is absolutely an icon in Chicago television. He was the man behind the Koz Zone. He was the man behind Stoogapalooza, and you definitely know him as the man behind the top hat and the long black hair. You know him as Svengoolie. We love him to death. He is Chicago's very own. Please say hello to Mr. Rich Costello. Wow. Holy.
Those are my parole officers, by the way.
We have a very special visitor from the East. Since you are here in beautiful Berwyn, we were...
Where are we? Just testing, thank you.
We wanted to present you with the key to the city. I could not make that happen, so here's the key to my garage.
Oh, thank you.
Try not to run off with my leaf blower. I just bought it. I haven't even had a chance to use it yet.
I could really use that leaf blower.
Absolutely.
Well, okay.
So now, if these people don't know, you've been a part of Chicago broadcasting since the 70s.
Yeah.
When you were like 4 years old.
Well, a little older than that, but yeah.
Now, you started on radio?
I started on radio in high school. Our high school, Main East in Park Ridge, had a real FM station. It was like 88.5 at the time.
Nice.
And I always loved guys on the radio, loved listening to them and thought they were clever. And when I found out I could actually be on the radio, I went there and volunteered and got on the air.
That's very... So then, how do you make the connection from that to being in cahoots with the original Svengoolie, Jerry G. Bishop?
Well, basically by being a fan. He started as the staff announcer. They used to have live staff announcers on TV stations, and he was the live staff announcer on Friday nights on WFLD when they were running horror movies. And he was just, you know, playing around with the copy and started doing this character. And I was a fan of his from his radio work and from what he did on TV. And he was reading jokes and things that people sent in, so I started sending in jokes and, you know, parodies of commercials and things like that. And pretty soon he was getting in touch with me and he said, hey, could you write a parody of this specific commercial or something like that? And I did, and I ended up working with him that way.
For a considerable number of years you worked with him, and then there came that moment where Jerry said, okay, I'm going to literally pass the hat to you. What was that conversation?
Well, what happened was during one summer, somebody from one of the TV stations, who was a friend of his, got in touch with him and they said, you know, would you want to just as like a summer, you know, replacement show type thing, just for fun, do Svengoolie again? Now, Jerry said he didn't necessarily want to, and the reason at the time was because he actually thought someday he might want to run for local office. And he didn't want them holding up a picture of him and saying, this is my opponent. But he had enough confidence in me. He said, you could be the son of Svengoolie, and then I'd produce the show and write it with you. And we thought, that's cool. We had some false starts on it. Never happened. And when Jerry was going to leave for a job in San Diego, he said to me, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. Everybody I was working with Dick Orkin, did Chicken Man.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
Dick Orkin, who just passed away within the last year.
Yeah, exactly. And he had the Tooth Fairy and all those great commercials.
I'm still hearing his commercials on the radio.
I know, yes.
And it's the coolest.
He was so good. And I was working with him as well. And he was moving his company out to L.A. Jerry was moving to San Diego, and I wasn't going to make the commute, obviously, and was willing to turn the keys to it over to me
keys
just like
to the
that.
crypt.
Not the keys to the garage, but
the keys.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, for those who can't see at home, the fob on this key is a picture of Madonna naked hitchhiking. Can we get a shot? Can we get a shot of that? Hey, Arnie, get a shot of that. But now, what was that? The first episode that you hosted was 1979. What was that? I gotta imagine you were shaking in your cape at that point.
It was pretty scary, yeah. Because first of all, to me, I was picking up, where he left off, and even though it had been like 3, 4, 5, 6 years, something like that.
Okay.
I thought, wow. I'm thrilled to be doing this, but are people going to accept it?
Yeah.
And the thing was that people did accept it. And of course, there was the handful of people who said, "You're not as good as the original Svengoolie."
Yeah, he was awesome.
And people still will say that occasionally. But yeah, it was a scary deal. And it was one of those things where the TV station didn't necessarily care about the show, but it became a success in spite of that.
I was going to say, that probably works in your favor that you're, now you're in prime time, obviously, with the program. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, you could pretty much... They weren't really watching you, were they? I mean, the suits, as they say.
Yeah, they didn't care. They were used to, the guy who was the weatherman doing that as a side job and not really caring about what he was doing. And here I cared about doing the show and what I was doing.
At the time that you started doing it, were you familiar with others around the country who had been doing these same things? Elvira, Dr. Sanguinary in Omaha, or Zachary in...
No, see, I had lived in Chicago all my life, and without the internet,
there
was nothing I knew about.
And cable TV barely existed.
Yeah, exactly. And Elvira was actually just starting at the same time I was out in L.A.
Okay.
So she wasn't in national prominence then. The only person I knew of was Marvin, who had been on ABC here.
Right.
And I had only seen him a couple times when I was very small because we weren't allowed to stay up that late and watch it. So we'd be at a relative's house, and if we stayed there late enough, I got to see a little bit of it.
What was the first of the classic monster movies? I'm assuming you've been watching monster movies since you were a wee small tyke.
When I was really small, I was afraid of everything, including horror movies. The scariest movie I ever saw, when people ask, what's the scariest movie you ever saw when you were a kid, was The Wizard of Oz, because the witch freaked me out. Not the flying monkeys are fine, but the witch, that voice, for some reason, just really scared me.
Excellent. So, and then were there other TV shows from your youth that you went, okay, this is the show that twisted my brains and made me Rich Koz, who went on to do this stuff?
Well, I think, between just the comedians that I watched.
Okay.
Because I loved, from when I was a little kid, I loved Jack Benny shows, though at the time I probably couldn't tell you why. I loved Jack Benny, Groucho Marx, and I watched Twilight Zone and Outer Limits.
Sure.
And those were two shows that, quite honestly, at times would really freak me out. And Alfred Hitchcock hours. Those would go from the range of, it was talking for a half hour and I didn't care, right, to ones that really scared the hell out of me.
Okay, I can understand that. So, speaking of Groucho, it reminds me of the fact that when you are doing the Svengoolie makeup, there is a link between your Svengoolie makeup and Groucho's makeup. And tell us, I love this story, tell me why you wear a painted-on mustache and not a fuzzy one.
Well, it's a very strange... I used to wear a very long sort of... I think it was like a sergeant major mustache or something was the name of it. Very strange. Go look up your theatrical stuff. And it stuck on with spirit gum. Spirit gum is terrible stuff. It's really noxious and awful. And I was going to my dentist and he said, your gums are really in bad shape. And I was like, really? He said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm not doing anything. We eventually figured out, under the hot lights, the spirit gum, and I had to put a lot on to keep that on under the lights, was dripping into my mouth and causing problems. So he's like, you really should do something else. And I was thinking, okay, and we tried things like liquid latex, but that would peel off too easily. And again, Groucho, a real idol of mine, and I thought, what if I just painted on?
Yeah.
And so I did. And, every so often some little kid will come up when I'm signing an autographers and go, that's not a real mustache. ruining the illusions of the young every chance
And you
I
have
get.
to tell him, I'm not really a vampire. I'm a guy in a hat. One of the things, I hope you take this as a compliment, one of the things that I admire about the work that you've done on television, you have never allowed a lack of budget to get in the way of a joke, a bit, an idea. I'm assuming that's accidentally on purpose. That's just how.
Many times it's necessity, yeah, because they don't give us budgets for things. And it was like, well, let's just do it. And I would hope that the thing that carries it is just the written material a lot of the time. And we don't have a lot of money for big special effects. Although lately we've had some people who are in the special effects business who have become fans of the show and are willing to help us out with some things.
The set that you have right now is really pretty lavish. The new coffin, the new gizmos, the digital intro, everything is very top notch these days.
Yeah, the Acme Design Company of Elgin, yes, I think they worked with Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
They were the ones that built the coffin and the new set. And first of all, they were fans of the show, which helped a lot. But secondly, also fans of the 30s and 40s Universal movies. And I think you can see that reflected in a lot of the stuff on the set.
Oh, absolutely. For me, the first movie that I saw, and I grew up in southeastern Iowa in the 70s, and public television in Iowa in the early 70s started showing the Universal films. And the first one I saw, which is about as good as it can get, was Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, definitely.
That one just knocked me out. Recently, I had the opportunity, just recently on the program, you showed Son of Frankenstein.
Right, yes.
Which I had always considered Son of Frankenstein out of the Boris Karloff movies to be kind of like, meh. A couple of seasons ago, Donnie Dunnigan, who played the cute little kid
whose big line was, "Well, hello."
Yeah. He made an appearance in the Chicago area with a showing of Son of Frankenstein, and I found that sitting in the theater watching the film with Donnie Dunnigan in the audience, I recognized how good a film that really is.
It really is, and one of the things that I really love about it is Bela Lugosi, because everybody's like, oh, he's Dracula and he's a real stiff actor and everything. When you see him play Igor in that shows his versatility. He was an amazing actor, and that character is so far removed from Dracula and some of the other characters he played.
With being Svengoolie and making appearances and whatnot, who, if any of the classic actors, actresses, producers, who have you met that you were literally shaking in your boots going, I can't believe I'm talking to Vincent Price's daughter, as an example.
Yeah.
Who have you met that you said, this is the coolest job in the world because I get to meet?
Well, part of the problem is that a lot of those actors and actresses from those movies are dead.
Yeah.
They seem to have passed away for some reason. But yeah, the connected people like Vincent Price's daughter, who's always been so nice to us. This isn't the horror movie people, but at the C2E2 convention, I was standing behind the curtain in the background, waiting to go out and sign my autographs, and they were whisking people back and forth in those little golf carts. And this one is coming by, and this guy, and it yells, "Svengoolie, SpongeBob loves you." And it was Tom Kenny, who's the voice of SpongeBob, who's been watching me for years, I guess, because he had relatives in the Chicago area.
Yes, his wife is from the suburbs.
Okay.
His wife is from the suburbs, and for all you kids out there, Tom Kenny, number one, is a huge rockabilly fan, and in the early 80s, he and Ronnie Dawson, the late Ronnie Dawson, were literally like this. Ronnie used to stay at Tom's apartment out in San Francisco, so put that in your pipe and smoke it. So jumping over to Stoogapalooza, which you did for a number of years, did the TV station come to you, or did you go, hey, I got an idea for a Saturday night show?
Basically, my boss, Neil Saban, the guy who came up with MeTV,
yes,
like myself, was a huge Stooges fan. When I first met him, that was one of the topics of discussion. And he was talking about how another station had the rights to the Stooges stuff. And he said, boy, I hope we can get it someday. Yeah. And someday we did. And as soon as we got it, he said, what do you want to do? And he said, you want to host it? And I said, well, sure, exactly. And we thought, I can throw in a bit here and there, but I think it's more interesting to give the background on these, because rarely did people hear any of the background on the actors in these shorts, and some of the things that happened in it that weren't evident on camera.
Right, you pull out all your best Vernon Dent stories.
Exactly.
Your Christine McIntyre stories. This is a little inside baseball for you Stooge freaks out there. But how long were you working on Stoogepalooza? I mean, I know you shot the bulk of the shows, and then they ran and they ran and they ran.
I want to say it was, boy, between 5 and 7 years, maybe. We were doing it, and then we lost the rights to the shorts.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
okay.
That was basically it. We would have kept going, except that another station outbid us in a rather sneaky manner. And we got those shorts.
I did enjoy that because it made for a great Saturday night. Like I said, I've spent a lot of my Saturday nights with you in your different guises. And I appreciate that. Are you aware of the fact, I know that you're aware of this, but my wife Mary and I talk about this all the time. Chicago television and Chicago in general has had a number of television figures that you'll only see in Chicago.
Sure, yes.
The Empire Carpet Man.
Right, yes.
That guy from Danley from Danley Garage.
With the spinning hammer?
With the spinning hammer.
Yes, of course.
The Menards guy.
Sure, yes. Well.
Number one, during the course of the time that you've been doing the Svengoolie show, number one, you've impersonated all of these people
yes, I have.
At one time or another.
Uh-huh.
And number two, I hope you recognize the fact that you're in the same league with these people.
Yes, I am, yeah.
That you really are a fixture that, you know, when people hear the word Berwyn, they immediately go, Rich Koz, Svengoolie, the whole bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we were talking about this ahead of time. Uh-huh. A lot of people may not know where the Berwyn gag originated. Could you enlighten us?
I'd be happy to. It was a sort of, there's two versions of the story. When Jerry was first doing it here, and we were talking about it, he said, well, the thing is, you know how Rowan and Martin and Johnny Carson make fun of beautiful downtown Burbank? He said, I want to do something that's like a small town type jokes about something. And there was a Burbank that wasn't too far away, but he said, no, we don't want to do the same thing. So he decided on the lovely town that had a yearly parade in honor of the mushrooms. And at the time, one of the main streets mainly had used car lots and savings and loans.
That's true.
And so he thought that would be the perfect thing to do. Now, the other side of the coin is when Jerry was working in Cleveland, there was a very famous TV host there, a man named Ernie Anderson, who you used to see on the Carol Burnett Show, and he was also the ABC announcer who said, "The Love Boat." And he was hosting horror movies there as a character called Ghoulardi, who was kind of a beatnik sort of horror host. And he would make fun of a local suburb called Parma.
That's what it was.
And so, you know, I didn't know anything about that until years later, you know, thanks to the internet and you know, things that have gone on now. But back then, the main story that I thought of was the Rowan and Martin story.
So that's where it all comes. It goes all the way back to Ernie.
It's a hybrid of those two, yes.
Fantastic. In all the years that, now, like you were saying with the Stooges, there came a point where your TV station didn't have the Stooges anymore. Same is true, there was a period of time where you didn't have access to the Universal monster pictures, the classics. During those periods, what movie did you show that you go, why did we show this picture? Well, we needed to fill a Saturday night. Was it, I don't know, Night of the Lepus? Was it...
Oh, I liked that one, though, because it was so awful. Well, we ran Angel. Ooh. Teenage prostitute Angel. It was like, yeah, that makes for a fun movie.
Yeah. For a guy in a top hat and a vampire makeup hosting.
Yeah, that was a little bit out of line, I would think. And my boss loved the fact that he had me run the Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz movie, The Long, Long Trailer, in which I actually dressed as Lucy. And to this day, he keeps saying, boy, we really ought to get that movie back. And I'd say, no, we shouldn't do that.
Wow. Wow. Now, people should be aware of the fact that you've been doing Svengoolie in Chicago since 1979. For the last 7 years, it's been seen nationally on MeTV.
Right.
What's been the national response? What sort of reaction do you get?
Well, first of all, I was a little worried about it because everybody, like you, grew up seeing some other guy doing this act. And a lot of times it's like, I always liken it to Doctor Who, where people say, the first Doctor you ever saw is your favorite. And I thought the same thing with horror hosts. So people would see me, and again, going into that same person, you're not as good as Dr. Coffin Nails.
Right.
But fortunately, people have taken to it. We've been successful now all over the country, and the audiences love it everywhere. I hear from celebrities all the time, which just blows me away, that they know who I am, and that they like the show.
Even better.
Yeah, so it's been kind of overwhelming. And I always say, here I am, I'm 66 years old, and I keep thinking, this would have been great if it had happened when I was younger and healthier and had a little more energy, but still, I'll take it.
There you go. I think we're going to, as George Costanza would say, leave on a high note. I think that is a beautiful, ladies and gentlemen, he couldn't be a nicer man, Mr. Rich Koz.
Thank you, Ken.
Hey, take that with you.
Thanks a lot.
We'll be right back with more fun and frolic. We throw it back over to Petey. You're watching the Chicago Vintage Show. That was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. Thank you, boss. Man, oh man.
Oh my baby, really can't make me fly. Oh my baby, makes me just wanna die. Oh my baby, really can't make me fly. Oh my baby, makes me just wanna die.
Wow. Good grief. More fun than humans should be allowed to have. You are watching the Chicago Vintage Show, and we come to you from the Outta Space in beautiful Berwyn, Illinois. Thanks to Aaron, who is the owner of the fine club. Thanks to the folks from jiving.com doing all that dancing. And Petey, who's been spinning records for us. Petey's from Paisan's Pizza. Oh boy. It's good. It's good. This young man sitting next to me picked up the guitar, I assume at a very early age, and has made quite a career for himself with a million different bands. He's got a million things in the works, and he's here to talk about it. Please say hello to the six-string nightmare. This is Mr. Chris Costello.
Hi, Ken.
When exactly did you pick up a guitar?
Well, without giving away my age,
Yeah. Me none neither.
I got the Elvis comeback live at Vegas, back in Memphis, double record set. Came out, what would that have been? 69?
Yeah, 69.
And a guitar for Christmas, and that's the only Christmas I remember.
Really?
I had a decent middle class upbringing, so I'm sure that I had other things that I were,
It wasn't
fun.
like,
but that's the one that changed my life.
Congratulations, Chris. You're getting a brick in a sock for Christmas.
Yeah, it wasn't like an underwear gift, but
Yeah.
I started playing then, but I didn't really get into it till I was about 12 or so, and I decided I want to be in a band. and stuff.
Well, now, when you started playing guitar at that age, what style were you shooting for? Or did you even know that you were shooting for a style, or did that come along later?
I was 8 years old. I was a record collector at 8 years old.
Really?
And one of my first records were Elvis records, but I bought the Beatles were together.
Yeah, exactly.
I bought those records.
Well,
And
Grandpa, I remember
And the
when
Monkees were on TV. I was buying those records, and my babysitters loved me, because I had all the.
Well, really,
the
we
teenage
shouldn't talk
records.
about that here.
But I got guitar lessons, but I was 8, so I didn't tell the guy that I already liked rock and roll. So
Really?
he taught me how to read music, which sucked.
Pays off in the long run, though, I would assume.
I didn't stick with it,
Really?
No.
Okay. So, the first bands that you formed, what kind of bands were they, or were you trying to play Americana, rockabilly, rock and roll from day one?
Well, no, growing up in Ann Arbor, I grew up with guys around me like the Stooges, the MC5. I knew all those guys.
Of course.
And they were the big kids,
Ted Nugent comes from the Detroit area.
But right, so I listened to my friends. My friends were all car guys. And what they liked was like Ted Nugent, stuff like that. So I said, well, they'll think I'm cool if I could learn all that stuff. So I learned all that stuff.
And I'm assuming it didn't take too long to learn how to play Stranglehold.
It took a while, but it dawned on me a few years later, like, this is like American guys with English guy haircuts playing American blues like English guys. And I had an epiphany, and I got a pompadour, and I changed, and I never went back.
Now, where do the Starlight Drifters, when you and I met sometime in the early 90s, in the dawn of the 90s, you had a band called the Starlight Drifters. Was that like the first one that really got you out of town, or?
No, I'd done a lot of stuff until then. In fact, I had rockabilly bands in the early 80s.
Really?
I did garage bands, and I did R&B bands, horn bands. And then one day, one of the swing bands that I played with, they used to give me $20. I showed up at a gig, and there was a curtain. Everybody was in tuxedos. The curtain opened. I was in a cigar bar, and they were paying us money. And all of a sudden, that was my introduction to the swing movement. It was like mid-90s. I just showed up at a gig and there was security.
And you went, wait, this is different.
Yeah, and I didn't even know this stuff was going on until I saw like Big Sandy on television. And I was like, I want to play rockabilly again. People want to hear this stuff again.
Yeah, and at this point in time, without me, this is not me, blowing smoke up your trousers or whatever, but I would consider you to be one of the go-to guys in terms of musicians that serve as backing the classic artists at events like Viva Las Vegas, the Nashville Boogie. You've played all those events, haven't you?
Yes.
Short answer, yes.
Yeah, I like to be busy. That's just what I like to do.
Tell me how you came to work with Mr. Jack Scott, who is one of the legends of rockabilly. If you don't know the song The Way I Walk, go listen to it right now and your life will change.
Well, the Starlight Drifters were playing in Ann Arbor, which was my hometown, and this guy came up to us and said that he liked the Jack Scott songs we were playing, and he wanted, I don't know, we were trying to tell him who Jack Scott was.
Oh.
And I explained to him, and it was him.
It was Jack Scott. Oops-a-daisy.
Oh, it was fun, and then he became a friend, and it was the first time in years that he had that style of a band backing him up. And I asked him, recently we went to Hemsby, just last October, and I asked him, well, what happened? You had this huge career going, and I was in a record store reading liner notes, and on one of his records it said, by 62 his career was ice cold, And
yeah.
That's not on one of his records. And I'm like, and he said, the Beatles destroyed my career. And I'm like, yeah, well, maybe it happened, but he wound up playing clubs. He never stopped, and he wouldn't even do his own songs.
Really?
Yeah, so like a lot of guys from the 50s, I equate the guys from the 50s, like the Tweed amplifiers, didn't survive the 60s and 70s without being spray painted black. That's kind of what happened to the original rock and rollers. They didn't know how to fit in anymore.
Well, Ronnie Dawson continued to play music, although he was part of the folk movement, he was part of the bluegrass. He played straight rock and roll, but he kept his chops up, and
he was so bad to the bone. Jeez. And Jack is exactly the same. He taught us how to do the doo-wop parts. We're singing harmonies, and he can play the solos from all his records, lick for lick. It's real specific.
Yeah.
He really knows his art.
He wants it to sound like, and just to continue, Jack is not the only legendary original rockabilly artist that you work with. You also work with a young man by the name of?
Well, while we were rehearsing with Jack, a guy walked in one afternoon, and it was Johnny Powers. And he's been
long blonde hair, kids. Look it up. It's the coolest.
He's been one of my best friends ever since.
And
real mentor of mine. And
I've had a few opportunities to work shows with you and Johnny Powers, and he seems like a guy who's really got his head together in terms of the music business.
Johnny will tell you stories, and you'll go, no, that didn't happen. And then I'll look it up, and it happened. It's incredible, the things that he did. He did record for Motown. The record surfaced recently.
And he recorded for Sun Records.
Yeah, and that's a great record. I just bought that again.
Really?
I found it at Third Man. Jack White reissued the Johnny Powers.
No kidding.
Sun Records, as well as a bunch of other Sun Records. It sounds great, too.
Well, now you spent, 10 years working in Nashville. before you moved to the Chicago area. And speaking on behalf of everybody that comes out to see you play, I'm glad that you're here, even if it's only for a short time. If you've got the career of a musician or whatever, that you got to go elsewhere. We sure appreciate having you here right now.
Well, I appreciate being here. Now, you know what? Thank you for everything you've done over the years for this town. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Svengoolie of rockabilly in Chicago.
You've got a big old deal going right now that just kind of, as far as I can tell, young Tammy Savoy just kind of dropped out of the sky, and suddenly the two of you were making magic.
In front of her husband.
Well,
he's always there. Let's get the magic clear. And he's a wonderful person and a great photographer and cameraman.
Hello and welcome to Chicago Vintage After Dark.
So Tammy is an angel. I can't believe the luck I've had working with her and the attention we're getting so quickly.
Yeah, well, for starters, you're on the cover of, what's that magazine? Oh yeah, Blue Suede News.
I don't know how that happened. I mean, I remember I started, she comes over, we recorded a couple things in my basement, and I thought they sounded pretty good. But it was done so cheaply and so quickly that I had to keep checking with people. Does this sound good? Is this good as I think it is? And I can't remember who I sent it to. I sent some to Beck Rustic.
Okay.
And I sent some down to Julia at the Thomason at the Nashville Palace. And some other people, but I don't remember who, and somehow or another, Blue Suede News got a hold of it, and really? Ken Burke called me and did an interview with us.
Speaking of which...
And we got on the cover.
Right before we started talking, Tammy was going to be with us here for this interview. I believe you just got a message from Tammy.
Tammy is doing a corporate gig in Cleveland.
Because as you know, when you're a musician, you got to pay them bills.
Yeah, let me put my code in here. Yeah, so Tammy's supposed to be here. I'm surprised that I'm here because we were supposed to both perform and
right,
be here.
We were supposed to be here together, but we do have Tammy will be appearing through the magic of your new music video here in just a moment.
Oh, we got that?
Yes, we
can
do.
say run the clip and we can go like that.
So,
all right,
Chris, did you bring a clip? You have a message from Tammy.
Tammy says she wishes she could be here, but the show she was supposed to do ended up getting canceled because the power went out and the whole west side of Cleveland, Ohio is in the dark. So, say it again. So it could have worked out if we'd known. Hopefully she gets her money.
I hope so. But like I said, you've done a music video for one of the songs that you've recorded. Quick, you started to tell me something about a record involving Wanda Jackson. Am I getting this story straight?
Right, so we're cutting a song for Beck. We mentioned her.
Beck Rustic, who is the brains behind the New England Shake-Up and Swell Tunes Records.
Right, so that record was originally picked up by Wanda Jackson, a tune I totally forgot about that I wrote in Nashville.
You wrote this song?
Yeah, with a friend of mine named Robin Grant.
Okay.
And Wanda liked it, she picked it up, and 3 years later it still hadn't come out. So I gave it to Tammy, and Beck loved it, and we cut it. And then we got in trouble with the Wanda camp.
Oopsie.
The manager called me and wanted to know who this artist was I gave the song to and all this stuff. And I said, well, you've had it 3 years, and she didn't know it was my act. So they can't really stop me from recording my own song. And then last week, Wanda cut the vocals, and Joe and Jed announced the release of the record in September of next year. So looks like we're going to scoop
the Queen of Rockabilly
herself. This will be the R&B version.
Very nice. So be watching for that record from Tammy Savoy on the Swell Tunes label.
Swell Tunes label.
And
available at the Shake-Up.
At the New England Shake-Up and online and sign up and all of that jazz. But so, Chris, you brought us a clip to show?
Yeah, we've got a video that, like we were talking about, George, your husband, shot this and did the editing, and I did the music.
Fantastic.
And can we say what I want to say?
Knock yourself out.
All right, I'm going to set up the clip. All right, so this is a Ruth Brown tune that she picked to do, and well, let's just roll the clip.
Let's take a look at that. That was an excellent video.
Thank you.
Well done, sir. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you at 1,000 different shows. The six-string wizard himself, Chris Costello, right here on the Chicago Vintage Show. We'll be back. Petey?
Thank you, Berwick.
There you go. Spin it.
Oh my baby makes me just wanna die. Oh my baby really can make me fly. Oh my baby makes me just wanna die.
I always try to pick an animal that fits the character.
There we go.
And today I brought a bucket o' snakes. And I just want to say that snakes have spent centuries and centuries of people not being nice to them. And in the end, they ended up with no ears, thank goodness, because then they would be crying all the time after hearing all the things people say.
And if they didn't have ears, they couldn't wear glasses.
Well, you know what? They don't have any eyelids, so they can't cry. So they're made perfectly to take all the crap that people give them, okay?
By the way, this is Beth Wagner, everybody, from Scales and Tails.
Thank you. Thank you. And just so everybody knows, in areas where snakes are taken out of the area, we often see what we call a huntavirus, which is very much like Ebola. It's a hemorrhagic disease. And so in places where they have rattlesnake roundups, we often see that people die from huntavirus.
Really?
In fact, the closest that it's ever come to Chicago was Gary, Indiana, and that was about 10 years ago. And people, when they kill snakes, we have rodents, and rodents carry the huntavirus. So when you sweep up the debris from mice, that goes into particulate, and sometimes it kills people.
Yikes.
So you should always, always make sure that you leave your snakes a little room.
Leave them a little something, something.
Yeah. And hold on, let me just take some.
Oh, I thought it was going to be one of those things where the coil, the spring thing jumped out, and it's not.
1 second. This one's for you.
Oh, hey. Hot ziggity.
By the way, this is a ball python. This is like the golden retriever of all snakes.
I'll just take your word for
Wait,
that.
I'm going to put a little hat on you.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Nice. Nice. I don't know. It looks pretty good on you.
Hey, somebody take a picture. This will make a great Christmas card.
All right.
Merry Christmas from me and a python on my head.
Oh, this one's just a little one. Hold on, I'll put a little.
You know, here's a surprise. Snakes smell funny. I'd have never.
They've been stuck in a truck since 9 this morning, so you'd smell funny too.
Is there ever going to be a time when you're going to bring us animals and not put them on our heads? Today,
I did not put any hedgehogs on anybody's heads.
Today, I brought a camel. Here, let's put it on your head.
All right, you guys ready for a gentle giant? I don't know if you guys have heard about the snakes that are causing all kinds of problems in the Everglades. And in the Everglades, people released animals. In fact, in Florida, they have people that just catch chimpanzees.
Wait.
And
is there a special name for them, or do we just call them chimpanzee catchers?
And you know what? The Burmese pythons are knocking out a whole bunch of the beautiful birds that are down in the Everglades, and the biggest one that they found was 18 feet, okay?
Good grief.
And that one they actually found under somebody's house. They realized that he was eating cats around the neighborhood, but he never, ever, ever messed with people. So I don't know why we're worried. Cats, whatever.
Cats.
And this one, this is called a Burmese python, and this guy is so beautiful.
I think my snake fell asleep.
And you have to really realize they're like the gentle giants.
Is someone moving my snake, or is he doing that himself? Holy Jerusalem. I have to. Hi. Hi, how are you?
Mustache, nice. I like that.
He must have heard.
Now, in Illinois, don't think that you can own a snake like this because you can't have a snake that's over.
Hi.
Well, it changes every year. I think it's 6 feet right now.
This is my new profile picture
And-
for Facebook.
Yeah, and that's
Hi.
just some of the regulations. You have to have federal, state, and city licenses. And let's see, what else?
Hi
He's
there.
not getting fresh with you, is he? Okay.
Hey, Chris's snake is getting close to Chris's snake. Hey now. I'm just going to sit here and have a snake on my head like, oh yeah, I do this all the time.
By the way, snakes cannot eat people. There's a whole group of people that travel all around the world. Every time there's a report of somebody that's been eaten by a snake, they go out and disprove it. The closest that anybody came was a boy in California who slept with a Burmese python. Whose mother would let your kid sleep with a Burmese python? He was 17 years old, and he was squeezed to death, meaning that the oxygen was taken out of his lungs, and the snake did try to eat one of his legs, okay?
Oh, okay.
But snakes can never eat people, not even a baby, because the way that our shoulders work, they never fold in.
They don't fold.
And if a snake ever tags you, that's what they call a snake bite, a tag. If a snake ever tags you and you pull your hand away, they lose all their teeth. So no worries there, okay?
Cool.
You done? How about you?
Wait a minute.
All right.
Hang on. Beautiful. You know, considering I'm part of the selfie generation, I'm sitting here with a dad blame snake on my head. You know, that's just mildly frightening.
At least you got a real camera.
Well,
Somebody said, what's his name? His name is Julius Squeezer. It's very appropriate,
now.
right?
so,
You're doing so well there.
thank you. Well,
Ken.
I'm just,
Very well.
you know, I'm just an old show business hack. I'll just do whatever.
Whatever it takes.
Oh, Don.
And that snake is doing so well.
It's better than Letterman.
Look at that.
This is,
You don't want your mouth?
I
I don't know how I can
at
answer
this
that
point,
question.
I'm completely out of funny snake on my head jokes. I had 2 or 3 when I came in the door tonight, and now
They're
nothing.
knocked right out of your
Right out,
of,
yeah.
Right, I can understand that.
This is going to be my look now. I'm going to be the rockabilly
You
guy.
notice the snake is trying to shut him up, okay?
Look, this is my second wife. Hey now.
He's going to bite me in the face.
No. No.
Kiss my ear.
There you go. By the way, they also have over 400 bones in their body. People only have 206. So when people say, oh, they're kind of mushy, I'm like, what do you mean? They have over 400 bones. They're bones all the way down.
I have to tell you a quick story before this moment passes. Thank you. If I saw this son of a bitch in my yard, I would be miles away. I'm really creeped out by snakes. On the other hand, if you, a trained herpetologist, you hand me a snake, I'm good to go.
But isn't it feel relaxing? It's really
Oh,
relaxing.
sure. Oh, yeah, it's great. I wish you'd crawl down my
feels really
pajamas
good.
right now. Oh, yeah.
Kind of
it's-
like a massage on your neck.
It's
Exactly.
it's just like getting a massage from a snake.
Oh, by the way, you know, out in Gurnee, there was a place that they had like a reptile area. I was at a wedding, and this guy's sitting next to me, and he's the accountant, and he said that he was there, and they had what did they have? They had a boa that was something like, I don't know, 20 feet long, some crazy number, and the guy went into the cage. And there's certain rules with snakes, like the way that I handle them and the way that you take them out of a box.
Right.
But you know, this guy went in and he was in a big rush and he ran in to feed him and the snake wrapped. And a lot of people think that they wrap like this and that you could just pull them off and just turn like this and unwrap. But that's not true. They're very, very strong and they wrap in loops. That's why I know you guys are okay, because you see I don't see any loops. And they wrap in loops like this. Those loops you cannot take off. You try to pull those off, and 2 new wraps come up on the other side as quickly as you pull them off. So that could be a problem. Okay.
You know, I'm realizing there was one important question I forgot to ask.
Crown of scales.
Is this thing poisonous?
Oh. In the world, only 25% of the snakes are poisonous.
Okay.
And in Illinois, hardly any.
Is he one of the 25 or one of the 75?
This is a ball python, the golden retriever of all snakes. And this is a Burmese python, and that's the gentle giant.
You've said that about a golden retriever. What exactly? Because golden retrievers, they'll kill a mouse. They'll chew up your carpet.
No, a golden retriever won't
Okay.
even stop a burglar.
Yeah. Well, this has been cool.
Are you talking about the snake?
Sure, why not? Once again, this is Beth Wagner from Scales and Tails.
Thank you.
I'm the guy with the snake on his face. Wait, no, that was John Candy on SCTV. Thank you for coming here. And could you do me a small favor?
Take the snake
Get this
off.
goddamn snake off my head. Holy Moses.
What an actor the snake was, though. He held up for a long time. Whoa, I like how he fixed your hair.
Of course. Beth Wagner from Scales and
Thank you,
Tails.
guys. Thank you.
Always a treat. We will be back. We will be back with more rock and roll. You can't believe what's happening. You are watching the Chicago Vintage Show. Just blow your brains out. That's Petey from Paisan's Pizza, who's been spinning records for you tonight. Thanks to everybody for coming out here. Man, we just had a wonderful time here at the Chicago Vintage Show. As always, my name is Ken Motti. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm lucky enough to be here on stage with one of the best dressed bands in town. Say hello to Chris on the guitar. That's Matt on the bass. Jason on the big saxophone. Tony on the big saxophone. And the lady of a noble is, of course, Gabrielle Sutton. And Alex is back there on the drums. And the legend who is Bill, who is actually wearing shoes, which is a big deal. Chris, how did this band start? What the hell was going through your mind anyway?
Well, I was playing in the early version of the Gold Stars with Matt. That's right, yeah. So we're doing a garage thing, you know. And I told Matt, I'm like, man, I want to do a band that like kind of takes Huey Piano Smith and the Sonics and Real Kids and mixes it all together. And I want a saxophone player and a piano player, and this is what happened.
It seems to be working, and I've said this to a number of people. Every time I see you guys, it's a greater and greater sound.
Well, thank you.
How did you manage to wrangle the magic talents of Gabrielle Sutton? How'd you guys make that happen?
Just like those snakes.
Yeah, not easy at all.
It was something that, I don't know, we've been playing for a long time. We thought, let's do something new, let's do something fresh. And I don't know why she would want to play with us, but we were like, okay.
She had a hat.
She had a hat, and we recorded the single here, and that's the first time we did something together, and it just sounded amazing, so we just kept it going.
And yes, the liner notes are in French, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
And you don't use too many swears, but that's cool. Ladies and gentlemen, they got a mess of merchandise. They now have pennants. They are here to blow your mind. Ladies and gentlemen, Chicago's very own BamaLamas. Woo!
I'll tell you once and I'll tell you again. Don't want you coming this way again. I love you, baby, yes I do. And then you went and found somebody new. I'll tell you once, I'll tell you again. Don't want you coming this way again. You can, you know I tried. Don't you see, it's so hard. You can, I tell you once, I'll tell you again. Don't want you coming this way again. No. I know your name, and then you said you'd never be the same. You care, you know I tried. Come on, baby, won't you be my bride? I'll tell you once and I'll tell you again. Don't want you coming this way again. I love you, baby, yes I do. And then you went and found somebody new. I'll tell you once, I'll tell you again. Don't want you coming this way again. No. I'll tell you once, I'll tell you again. Don't want you coming this way again. I'll tell you once, I'll tell you again. Don't want you coming this way again. I'll tell you once, I'll tell you again. Hey! Nice dancing out there. Keep those flags out. All right, Jay, lead us. Oh, we need the dancers.